What's good, y'all? We're back rocking, and I want to take y'all behind the scenes as I shoot a one-day conference. Come and take a ride with your boy. So I'm in Kansas City, Missouri with one of my repeat clients. So they're not on a retainer, but we do quite a few conferences and meetups and meetings and annual stuff throughout the year. So I think I do probably 3 or 4 meetings and events for them through the year. It may up this year because it sounds like they're going to get a little bit more active, but they just bring me in for 1 or 2 days to capture enough content so they can put it on the website and show what they did to their audience so their members know that they are actively engaged. And so today we are here for 1 day and 1 day only. And so we're going to put boots to ground and get moving to get as much content as we can in this 8-hour span. So I go on site. I started at 10 a.m. With a run through of the awards luncheon, which is about to start here any minute now. And then I'll be on site up until 7 p.m. and then flying home the next day. So I flew yesterday, on site today, fly home tomorrow. So 3 days of movement for me, but 1 day of work. So let's get going. I'm gonna kind of walk y'all through what I do as I shoot conferences and conventions so y'all can see in real time what it actually looks like and what I'm thinking about as I'm setting up my shots and working through my room. So let's get with it. Come on. All right, so as the day started off, my contact asked me to come for the award ceremony rehearsal just so I could see the lighting. Last time we were here, the blue light in the background overpowered a lot of the photos. I shoot with the speed light, and so you have to have the speed light almost all the way up. It's at 1/4 power to overpower some of those backlights, but just wanted to get a couple different angles so I can show them what it's going to look like to let them make the decision on do they need to turn the blue light down. As you can see, it's very bright, or do they keep it where it's at and are just okay with the photos? Last time they didn't get that opportunity, so this time they're very intentional. So we just spent some time here getting a couple of different shots and then showing them space. Now, let's head to the first spot, breakout rooms. The first thing I do when I hit a breakout room is I take a picture of the title of the room so I'll know what these photos correspond with. This helps my client identify where these photos were taken and who's in the room and what they should be looking for without me having to do a whole bunch of separation in the gallery, which I may still do. But in this case, we are in a very large conference room. You see the style is set up for the committee to actually talk to one another. For this, I don't particularly love this type of setup because a lot of times the people on the outskirts are not very engaged, and it can be a little bit dull. Now, in this moment, I want to make sure that I'm getting groups of people. I try to get groups of 3, centering the person who's speaking, but also showing some of the people in the background so you get environment. I'm shooting from across the room, so I'm shooting with a 70 to 200 to make sure that I can get in tight and still get a good headshot of the speaker, but then also back off if I wanted to get a shot of the group that he or she may be operating in. As I'm doing this, I also use a 7200 so that I'm kind of out the way. So I can shoot off to the side and zoom in to where I need to be to still be able to get reactions, get shots of speakers, and get just interaction of people throughout the room. So this gives me a little bit more opportunity to work in space. And also, sometimes with shooting your 7200, you get really good candid moments because people don't feel like you're all up on them and in their presence. By creating that distance, they get to be more natural because they sometimes don't even notice you're there. And so then you get great shots of people who are actually in action. So in this moment, I'm going to move throughout the room and just get a lot of shots of different people. You'll notice every now and then I will pause as I take pictures throughout the day because I'm pausing to rate my photos in my camera. And so I'm usually rating if I'm taking 2 or 3 photos of one shot, or changing the lighting by moving my top flash, then I'm typically rating the photo in my camera so that I don't have to go back and cull it later. So when I take everything in the Lightroom, I drag and drop my photos in there. All of my best shots have already been selected. They are rated, and so then I can just downsample to that so that I can start working on the actual edits. Now, as you can see, one of my favorite things to do when I work in hotels and conferences is find the road less traveled. So here I'm actually going into the back of house I just use the back door. Sometimes this goes into the kitchen area. Sometimes it goes into another conference room or what have you. But I try to be mindful of where my entrances and I try to be mindful of where my entrances and exits are because I want to be able to slip in and out of different rooms without really being noticed or detected. In these moments, the goal is to get candids of people in action doing the work that they came to do at the conference. So I want to be able to get in and out and it be a smooth transition without anybody really knowing I'm there. Never mind the fact that I'm flashing like crazy, uh, but I just want to be able to show. So in this moment, that door was locked. I actually wasn't able to get in. So now I'm just gonna walk around, and boom, we're back into the next room. So there are only 2 conference rooms going on at this time with 2 different meetings, but they're pretty similar setup. Now, things to think about while I'm in this room, there is a big black center in the room. So when I'm shooting my flash, I don't always shoot directly at a subject. I like to bounce my flash off of a nearby wall or a white ceiling because it gives me a really good even light. In this case, because the ceiling in the center is black, I don't necessarily have that in the center space. So I'm pointing my flash more backwards towards the wall, which is not white. It is gray, but it will still give me a good soft shine of light. And a lot of times when I'm using my 7200, sometimes I'll tilt my flash forward just a little bit and allow that light to bounce off of the ceiling. So it's going at an angle up towards the ceiling and coming down at an angle to hit my subject. So it still gives them a soft light. It doesn't feel like I'm pointing a flash directly at them because I'm pointing at an angle upwards and it's coming down and splashing over my subject. So in this moment, they were talking to one another. So I felt like it was an opportunity for me to get center stage and get some really good tight ups of the speaker. And so I made that a priority to get these shots while I could. Now, today I'm shooting one camera. I did not want to have to go through a bunch of cards and do a bunch of editing, so I decided to shoot one camera. So I just brought my Canon Professional Services crossbody bag, and I kept my lenses within the bag, and then I swapped them out as I needed them. So in this moment, I decided I'm going to get wide shots of the room. A lot of times when I'm going through a room, I try to get wide, medium, and tight shots of everything so that there's variety. You don't know where this content is going to live. It may be on a website, it may be on social media, but you want to be able to get wide, tight shots of the full room, especially if it's full. And you also want to be able to get people in the audience. Another thing I like about carrying my crossbody is that I can keep a lot of different stuff in the crossbody. So here I have my charger that's in the body to charge my phone, which was almost dead. I also have my camera battery holder slash SDCF card holder, which I got off Amazon and was such a great find because it basically keeps all of my operational stuff in one place. It keeps it looking good. If I did not put everything in there before I got started, so now I'm just basically reorganizing before I get back to work. But this basically puts a command center on my chest. So rather than having to carry 2 heavy cameras all day, which really does do work on my back, now I have my crossbody, which spreads that weight out, and just one camera. And they're not doing anything super active. Like they're not running a marathon or playing a basketball game. So it's like when I need a moment to switch a lens out, I just switch the lens. I don't overthink it. So a lot of times you'll see folks go with 2 bodies and, it looks good and it does a lot of great stuff for you. But I don't necessarily feel like it's always necessary, especially when I know that I'm going to do something that's going to be a lot more low key on my day. So here I'm just, swapping out as I need it, get the shot, and then go back. For the most part, I'm gonna use my 7200 because these rooms are really, really huge. But if I needed to get my wide shots, I usually try to knock that out really quick and then be ready to move on to the next thing. So let's get it all repacked, and it's time to head on to our next event, which is the award ceremony. But before we go to that award ceremony, one thing I love about conferences, snacks. It's snacks everywhere. Let's grab some and head on downstairs. So now that we are in the room, this is where we were earlier, where we got some test shots. I'm checking for 2 things when I come in. First thing I do is I find my spot of where I'm getting my angle of the speaker, so I can just sit here throughout the majority of the ceremony and get speaker shots as well as any awards that may be given out without blocking anybody's line of sight. But I'm also turning back from that angle to see if I can get shots of people in the audience to get crowd reactions without having to move. Now, once I feel like I got a good angle to get all 3 of those things just from turning side to side, I then move around the room after people have gotten done eating and just get shots of people interacting. Here, I call this hunting for smiles. I'm looking for people who are active, engaged, who are smiling, who are having a good time, because that's what's going to be used in the brochure, in the marketing, and the PowerPoints, right? They want to see their members who are just enjoying themselves and are really getting the full benefit of being in this space. And nothing says I'm having a good time like a good smile. So I'm gonna just roam around the room for a bit and get a lot of different angles to try to get as many different people. One thing I noticed for myself, the more I shoot, the more I start to shoot some of the same folks. I think it's like a memory thing where it's just like you just kind of get comfortable shooting a certain person, or you know that they gave you a smile, so you start to do it more and more. I don't know, but because of that, I try to move around the room so I'm getting different angles, so I'm not stuck with 20 images of the same person. Now, in this moment, I did not have my 16 to 35 to get a wide angle shot. So instead, I shot a panorama. You'll see me get 8 shots. That's 4 from below, 4 from up high. And then when I take it, I'm going to cull it real quick, just rating each one. When I take it into Lightroom, I will use the panorama function to put them all together to make one big wide photo. And then that way I got my wide angle shot, and I'll still use some of those other shots in this moment to be able to use for wide shots to give to the client. So one thing I do in every big room, especially when everybody's present, is I try to go 4 corners. So all 4 corners of the room, I try to get a wide angle shot. And even as I'm moving throughout the room, like right now, I might snag 1 or 2 shots just from side angles, just so they can see from every angle of the room how full it was, how active it was, how engaged people were in the speaker. And then in this moment, I'm shooting with a 24 to 70. So I'm going to get a wide shot of the room, but then also I'll zoom in from the back to get a shot of the speaker on stage, full body, with audience around them, to show the environment, right? To show that they are sharing, um, great information, and that people are actively engaged. Because in these moments, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to sit around with their eyes glazed over, but you really want to show that they actually were engaged with the content that was happening, and we're taking something away from this. That's really how we sell a moment. And the goal of these images is not just to take pictures to show people like what happened. Be real. The goal is to sell. People want to see that it was crowded in here, and that people were eating up the information that they were learning, and they were like, yeah, this is something I need to be. How do you show that in a photo? How do you show this is somewhere you need to be? By showing people who are engaged and who are, excited about what's happening here. And so as I move around, I also try to get detail shots. Sometimes you'll catch people who are reading the program, or maybe they're laughing at, a video on screen. You just want to, every little detail counts. I think that's what separates you from being a picture taker to being a photographer or being a solution for your client, is recognizing that all the details matter. And especially when you're doing photography, it doesn't take you long to just get a couple snapshots. So now this is their exec board. We're going to get a photo of them that they can use for their portfolio. One thing about shooting conferences, especially for me as a plus size model, they always have crazy amounts of snacks, but I have never been to a conference that has this. Boy, they got the SpongeBob popsicles just like when you was a kid on the ice cream truck. That's crazy. We just out here with SpongeBob pops, man. I need that. I'm about to have 2 of them. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell my wife. So now we're about to wrap it up. It's been quite a day. They are in their second round of breakout sessions. And then after this, they have an innovative tech forum. And so we're just going to rotate through just like we did before, getting more content. It may be a little bit boring because at this point you've done this already, but you have to keep in mind like what's new, what's fresh. Not everybody's sitting in the same position. You want to get new groups of people. You want to try to catch people raising their hands. You want to try to catch people laughing and smiling, someone leaning over and talking to someone else and sharing information. You want to get the main speakers who are, engaging and sharing information in that moment. So people at home know that they, were getting the work done. So the people who are a part of this organization, they care about what's going on here. And so they want to see that, such and such was giving the recap of what happened in years prior in the budget forum. And so you have to be able to show evidence of the work that was done. That's what we're here to do as documentarians, as photographers, even within a corporate event space. So I feel like in that, we got the shot here. You know, we're going to continue to maneuver around the room. Right now, I've got my 24 to 70 on, so I'm getting mostly wide angle shots. I'll zoom in a little bit to get, you know, groups of 3 and 4 when they're active and engaged. But I'm just kind of rotating through the room to do my thing. So that's how we roll. All right, folks, that's it. All right, folks, that's it. So we are headed into our last session. They've got a 45-minute form, and then I am taking the photos directly upstairs to my room so I can get to editing. They've requested that they have their award recipient photos this evening so they can put it in a blog post for tomorrow. But I'm going to try to get it all done within an hour and be done. That's part of my process. I try to make sure I'm as efficient as possible. So I've been coloring my images through the day. I've already offloaded half of them when I got a break. Went ahead and offloaded those images, loaded them in the Lightroom, pared down the images. I had about 285 selected so far. So when I go up, I got probably about another 500 shots on here. I'm expecting to probably add another 150 shots. And then I'm going to click, keep it rolling through Lightroom, edit as many as I can to get through and get done. I'm going to put a timer on it for an hour. It'll probably take me like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I got a time blindness thing. I have a time blindness thing. It's kind of a thing anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna work through those edits. I'll send them over to the client. They'll love them, and then we move on to the next project. So the goal is to be as quick and efficient as possible. Show up, be professional, and let them know that you're providing a solution. So I appreciate y'all for rocking with me today, walking through the day, getting it done. I hope you learned something from the commentary and could take away something to be a better creator, photographer, videographer in your personal field. So as always, brand responsibly, grow with us, and let's go from portrait to corporate. We do all things well. Let's get it. Peace.